Now, let's continue our focus on the water crisis. There is some relief for Gauteng Metros as the Water and Sanitation Minister has increased Rand Water's allocation from the Vaal River system. The Minister met with officials today following shortages, and of course, some residents in Johannesburg have been without a stable supply of water for weeks. Given water problems in other parts of the country, the Water Research Commission, in partnership with government and UJ and others, has held a number of dialogues to discuss the drought and floods and mechanisms that could be implemented and the communication strategies that could encourage people to save water. To discuss, we're now joined by the Water Research Commission's Research Manager, Wandile Nomquphu. Mr. Nomquphu, thank you for being with us. Are there learnings from Cape Town? We all remember that day zero coming and the Eastern Cape that's been struggling with drought for years. Are there learnings that could help Gauteng right now?
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me here. Absolutely, there are lessons that we can learn from what had happened in the Western Cape, and it had happened throughout the country, the drought that has struck the country, specifically the Western Cape, in a big way. It's not only droughts, there is also floods. You will recall that in the Eastern Cape, for instance, the western part of the Eastern Cape is really under huge pressure. It has been under huge pressure with drought, and yet the eastern part of the province has been experiencing some floods. So there are lessons that we can learn in terms of planning, in terms of understanding that these droughts and floods happen in cycles, and these cycles need to be planned for. And, you know, we talk about climate change these days. Climate change, that the increasing intensity and the frequency of the occurrence of these extreme events, floods and droughts, suggests that these cycles have changed slightly, and therefore we should plan and be ready with our plans to counter the effects and the impacts of such extreme events.
Yeah. In Gauteng, many residents are just flummoxed right now. There seems to have been a lack of coordination all along between government and then the bulk water supplier, Rand Water, and the three metros like Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni, Tshwane. And suddenly everybody's meeting and coming up with plans, but that's after quite significant cuts. So surely there could have been better pre-planning here.
Look, the relatively medium to long-term forecast for rains to come this summer suggests that in parts of the country, we are likely to have some rains coming early. This has happened. People in the eastern part of the country, Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, will tell you that they've been receiving rain since September. But that has not been the case in the interior. Because of the heat wave, we have not received the first rains yet in Gauteng and other parts of the other provinces. Well, that is the situation at the moment. And I mean, we do forecast, but the natural phenomena will take its course and it will do its own way. And indeed, we have been having full dams for a long time, but if the rains are late, then we are depleting what we have in store in our dams. So people are trying to do what they can with the little that is currently have, in the hope that the rains will come soon. And very soon.
Yeah. Talking about dams, I mean, we know that the Vaal Dam is pretty full, and the system, the Vaal River system, is where we draw some of the water. But Rand Water has been restricted until now as to exactly how much water it can draw. I don't think people even understand why. So is communication hugely important here as well? People are hearing things like, okay, we've got so much water, but we can't access it.
Look, you might have a full Vaal dam at the present moment, but that full Vaal dam is when there are no rains. If we abstract water to the extent that it is depleted, then we might end up talking about the day zero. I agree with you that the communication has not been up to the standard it should be. But the fact of the matter is we still have some water in the Vaal dam, but we should be careful on how much we are taking out of that system, because if it goes down, then we've got to rely on what is called a reserve dam somewhere upstream of the Vaal system, the Sterkfontein Dam, which is a reserve dam that will counter any depletion that might happen in the Vaal dam. So we have to be well, we have not been communicating this quite well, and we should have been, to alert people that when we are not receiving the rains at the time that we should be expecting the rains to come, then we should be manage carefully the amount that we are taking out of that system.
Yeah.
Being mindful that if we are to take more than is coming in, meaning more than the rains are coming, then we might end up having a very serious situation come the middle of summer, and when there are no rains, there are not enough rains coming to fill up that system.
And our earlier guest also pointed out that the system is designed to receive only a certain amount of water. So you're looking at the whole system. Then we hear about the leaking system, how these leakages are resulting in huge losses before the water even gets to us. In a situation like that, where residents are concerned about another case of mismanagement, how do you get them on board and say, well, now you also have to help and you need to save water?
Well, you earlier mentioned the situation with the Western Cape, the day zero that was anticipated in the Western Cape as a result of the poor management of our water resources. Look, it is true, the Vaal Dam, the Vaal system is allowed to receive a certain amount. Remember, the Vaal Dam is this expanse reservoir, which is relatively shallow, and the water evaporates quite quickly because it is shallow and it is very expansive. And we're losing water. If you're putting in a lot of water into the Vaal Dam, then it will, during the heat waves, as we're currently experiencing, it will lose that water through evaporation. And therefore, you should try and keep a certain amount in the dam for use and then bring in that amount if the depletion, well, the amount of the water in the system get depleted. Of course, there is a huge issue with the non-revenue water, with the leakage dam, leakages from our systems, the pipes and stuff, and people misusing water and using more than they should be using, actually. And it is the responsibility of everyone in the vicinity of where we are experiencing this relatively short drought situation, to save water and to use the water in the best possible way. Look, people, when they see water coming out of the tap, they think we have enough water and we can use as much as we can. But that is not the case.
Yeah.
And we should be very careful about leaving our taps leaking and dripping our taps in our houses and so on. Yes, the infrastructure, the distribution infrastructure seems to is old, some of it, and we are losing water in that system. And we need to be fixing those leaks in order to save water that has already been the bulk water that is coming into our systems. Yeah, well, we hear the statistics that almost 35 to 40% of our water, we are losing it in our distribution system.
Yeah,
that
it's
is not
incredible.
Cool.
All right, we have to stop it there, but I hope we can chat again. It is interesting. Some of your research showed that there was long-term changes to behaviour amongst Cape Townians, for example, and that's what we need going forward. That was Wandile Nomquphu, a Water Research Commission research manager.